This Late Night Linux Family podcast is made possible by our patrons. Go to latenightlinux.com/support for details of how you can join them. Support us on Patreon for access to ad-free episodes and early releases. That's latenightlinux.com/support. Hello and welcome to episode 371 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 26th of January 2026. I'm Joe, and with me are Phelim.
Ahoy, hoy.
Graham.
Good evening.
And Will.
Hello.
Malware peddlers are now hijacking Snap publisher domains. This is written by someone called Alan Pope. Seem to remember him.
I thought it was Leo now. Sorry.
I am so tempted to cut that out, Phelim, but I will leave it in to shame you.
Aha! I have no shame. Joke's on you.
Anyway, so Popey has written before about problems with the Snap Store and these snaps that purport to be crypto wallets, but actually you put your seed phrase in and then they just steal all of your shit, basically. Now, it would be tempting to just say, these crypto fuckers deserve it. And I'm not quite going to go that far, probably failing you will. Okay, fine. But anyway, the point that Popey brings up is that there is a problem here. Because if people can sneak in crypto malware, then they can sneak anything in there. And previously it was just about trying to evade the filters and everything. But now they've moved on to a new technique, which is finding snaps where the developer had a custom domain for that application. The domain has expired. They register that domain for themselves and then take over the account. And now they've got this account that had previous good standing and history and everything, and they can just push their malware. That doesn't seem like an ideal situation to me, that this is happening.
The other thing is obviously then using foreign character hacks. There was a name for that for websites as well, which I can't remember now, where, you know, you've got various letters in other languages that look like Latin letters and hacking it that way. It's the problem with a curated store is the fact that it by default gets trust, whether correctly or not correctly. And equally, so does the Play Store, so does Apple Store. They've been caught with this as well. It's a huge problem. And I imagine the cost of trying to constantly trawl through this stuff and fight them is massively difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you said curated, but it's kind of the opposite of that, isn't it? It's a sort of free-for-all. Anyone can publish a snap.
Well, by the looks of the Play Store, anybody can publish something in the Play Store too. I mean, if that many far apps or whatever that's in there, I mean, you know, I don't really believe there is much being done to check any of the apps on any of the mobile stores realistically.
Yeah, but it is harder, not impossible, but it's harder to push malware into, say, the Debian repos because you have to gain trust.
Yeah, but that was always seen as the barrier to entry. So, you know, it's those two things. You can have it easier, you can have it secure. You can't have both.
Yeah. I mean, this is this now age-old debate about, do you want software to come directly from developers or do you want to have a buffer in the way of distro maintainers, the old school packaging system? And Flatpak is winning on the desktop. Snap is doing pretty well on the Ubuntu desktop at least. But the advantages of getting the newer stuff sooner come with risks like this, risks that we shouldn't ignore.
I think we have undervalued the effort that main repos do. I know developers of software often whinge about the fact that, I'm still getting bug reports for Debian systems for a package that I've developed years ago at this point. And it's, well, yeah. But also, I think this is as you say, this is the other side of that coin. And I'd rather have slow and secure than fast and dodgy.
Well, fast and risky, let's say.
Fair. Risky, yes.
Or slightly more risky, maybe, because there's always risk with everything. You know, just look at the Geotan thing.
Yeah, true.
That could have easily made its way into distros, the old school way. Well, this kind of leads on to Linux Mint user gets gnomed. So someone posted on Reddit, r/Linux Mint, what happened to Linux Mint? I installed Mint today because I didn't want Bazzite for this tablet-like app selector, and I rebooted Mint and found this. What happened? And there's a photo of GNOME. And It turns out there is a whole subreddit devoted to people who got GNOME, where they installed something with a GNOME dependency and it just installed the whole thing.
Well, it's about goddamn time. Everybody whinges about, oh, I installed the KDE app and I got all the KDE libs. Well, fuck you all.
Yeah, but it's one thing to get, 2 gigabytes of KDE libraries.
Oh, take that back. It is not 2 gigabytes, you dirty liar.
Well, whatever. Multiple, at least 10 megabytes of KDE bullshit. But at least it doesn't change your actual desktop interface. Now, I did dig into this, and it is somewhat user error, I would say. So, reading through the Reddit thread, they installed Proton VPN. Now, Proton VPN, the GUI for that only officially supports GNOME. And so if you go through all of the instructions for it and just blindly copy-paste them into the terminal, which I did in a VM of Linux Mint, you end up with it installed. But there is an optional command that it says, which is sudo apt install GNOME shell extensions app indicator. Now, I installed that, and then it did that thing where it asks you, do you want LightDM or GDM? And GDM was on top, although LightDM was the default selection. So this person, I think, went through all these instructions, did the optional one to get the app indicator, and then must have pressed arrow up to GDM because they thought, well, that's on top, it must be right. Rebooted, and then they basically get an Ubuntu session. So this is a very niche use case, but it kind of goes to show that the old school package management way of installing stuff can break catastrophically sometimes, and something like Snap or Flatpak would have prevented this.
Sure, but this is also a bit like the way that Linus Tech Tips guy didn't fucking listen to what I told him to do and he blitzed his machine. Thing is, don't trust blind instructions from the internet.
Also, I think this is a good reminder, our positive New Year message about continued Linux growth. I think this is a reality check. We still have a long way to go. I've done this so many times and hacked solutions and forced uninstall things and then had everything else installed. That's usually what happens. I have all the window managers installed. This is still Linux. We're still not very far away from disaster at every single command.
Mm. Well, my wife once said to me, my laptop's not working. I said, what? And she gave it to me. I turned it on and it booted to just a command. I did start X, not found. What? So I thought, what's going on here? So I installed Ubuntu Desktop and it pulled it all down, took ages, installed it, and everything was completely fixed. Cause of the problem? My little alias that I use on my machines and had on her machine, up equals sudo apt update, dist upgrade, apt auto remove. And somehow auto remove had pulled the entire fucking desktop out. Mm. And again, that was my fault for putting that in her little alias, and I promptly took that out. And so now every time I look at a laptop, I do an auto remove and see all the old kernels and get rid of them. But this could not happen on something like SteamOS, Silverblue, the composable, immutable desktops. I mean, they come with potential other problems, but this is not one of them. And it is a potential argument for inexperienced users using those types of distros, isn't it?
I mean, if they don't want to learn anything, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Most people don't want to learn about computers. They want to use a computer. They don't even want to use the computer. They want to use applications like Steam or LibreOffice or Firefox or whatever.
I think it's reasonable for users to expect that when they install software, they're not going to get an entirely new desktop environment when they reboot. But in the screenshot in that Reddit post, you can see that they have managed to run Steam and they have managed to run Brave. So it can't have been completely alien to them. And in the Reddit thread, there is a post where somebody says, oh, just do this and you'll be back to normal. It happened to me as well. So I think there's a decent chance that this user will be able to recover their normal working environment from where they're at now. So that gives me hope that if you do decide to embark on the brave new world of Linux and you do screw it up through no fault of your own, you can at least get help from the community, get it working again, and you're no worse off. And worst case scenario, you can still launch your browser anyway, so you can go and look up solutions and ideas on how to fix it.
Mm. I didn't notice that they had Brave installed. Fuck that person. Okay, this episode is sponsored by Automox. If you're evaluating endpoint management solutions, the real risk isn't which tool you choose, it's choosing one without a proven blueprint for success. Because while most endpoint tools promise automation, next to none promise outcomes. That's why Automox introduced Turnkey results. Turnkey removes the uncertainty that holds endpoint automation back. It delivers a personalized results blueprint, so Automox is configured and operated to achieve real outcomes from day one. No trial and error, just clarity. Each blueprint is validated across millions of endpoints managed by Automox and tailored to your specific environment, your risk tolerance, and your operational goals. Instead of guessing how aggressive to be with automation or how to configure policies safely, start with a plan you can trust. And you can choose to implement the plan yourself or have Automox do it for you. Either way, you get faster time to value, lower risk, and predictable endpoint outcomes. Automox Turnkey results. Know the plan, trust the result. Learn more at www.automox.com. Mixed news from the UK government. First of all, they are not going to mandate digital ID. So that's good. We kind of said it was unworkable, I think, when we talked about it before. And sure enough, they're not going to mandate it for the right to work. You can use other forms of ID. So that's good. However, they want to ban under 16s from social media. And how are they going to do that? With more age gating bullshit. And the House of Lords has voted to extend age verification to VPNs as well. So you can't even just pay for a VPN and get your mucky JPEGs that way, or even potentially get onto Facebook and Instagram and all the rest of it. This is not good at all. It's not definitely happening, but it's looking quite likely that you're basically going to have to prove who you are to use any of the major internet services, even VPNs.
Just as a question for an outsider, how would you pay for a VPN if you weren't the holder of a credit card, say? Have you guys got ways of paying for stuff for under 16s otherwise?
You can get debit cards if you're under 16. I think you can get a debit card once you're 12.
Right. And then you could use that to pay for a VPN service.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't agree with this. I don't trust the government. I think it's a bait and switch. However, I do think something needs to be done to protect young people from the algorithms of social media. I don't know what. I'm not saying ban it, but I do think it's worth having a conversation about, not us, I mean metaphorically, because I think everything is tilted against young people. And I think it can create a very negative feedback loop that is unhealthy. And there needs to be some way of pushing back against that. They need to have their rights protected as well. And I believe that they're taken advantage of mostly.
Won't somebody think of the children?
Well, I do think it's an issue. I think, especially young children, peer pressure and the kind of shit that you see on the internet that's then fed to you according to how much more of it pops, how much you linger over it. Look, as a kid, I wanted access to everything and I felt in control of everything, but this is a very different world. I'm definitely not saying banning it and I'm not trusting the government, but I do think there should be some safeguarding in place.
My kids want access to WhatsApp because their friends at school have group chats and they think that they're missing out. And I'm sure that they are missing out, but it does worry me, the cyberbullying, sexualization of children, body standards, ideals being pushed at them, the sorts of adverts that I see on Facebook for just bizarre, horrible, clearly scammy things are just going to be pushed to the kids. And I don't know how to protect them from that other than just not letting them go on it. So they're not allowed. But eventually they'll get phones with SIM cards and then they'll just have free reign. So it worries me. I hope that I'll do a good enough job of educating them that they will have some defense against this. But how do you defend a child against a very sophisticated, tweaked algorithm designed by hundreds of very clever software engineers that live 1,000 miles away? I don't know. I don't think you can.
And not only that, but they are incentivized to make sure that any security that you put in place to try and stop that is bypassable because, we do this because of nations where the government is evil and we're trying to allow people to contact that. Bullshit. They want to get around stuff like this.
Well, cup your ears, lads, because you might not be able to hear me from up in my childless ivory tower.
Oh, here we go. Fucking solves it all.
Just talk to the kids. Have the conversation with them. Have an open and honest relationship with them where they can talk to you about shit. Is that just pie in the sky?
It is absolutely, it's the biggest pie. It is a massive, massive pie. It's bigger than the moon.
Okay.
I think you can educate your children to a certain extent, but there's some amount of learning that they need to do on their own. And you have absolutely no control over who they receive that message from.
You can educate your kids as much as you want, but you can't educate someone else's kids who'll talk to them with bullshit and nonsense.
Right, but I remember as a kid, there being bottles of bleach in the bathroom. And I would not touch that bottle of bleach because my mum had taught me not to do it.
But if on your journey to the library, you saw 17 adverts that said, hey kids, bleach tastes delicious, at some point you're going to think, well, maybe it does.
I don't think I would because I was taught properly.
I think you underestimate peer pressure.
I was always quite weird and didn't really get on with other kids.
Things are very different now, though, Joe. It's true, they shouldn't be on there. We should be stopping them being on there. We should have those conversations with them. And we are, and it's still difficult. So what about the people who aren't having those conversations with them or the people who aren't stopping people? I don't have the answer, but I do think it's a real problem. If you spend a moment lingering too long on an image of self-harm on TikTok, it will send you more images of self-harm on TikTok. Where is that right?
It's not only that, it's parents who now have to work 2+ jobs just to make ends meet because the way everything's increasing in price, they may not even have the time to deal with things like this all the time. And it's just here, you've got the phone so I can reach you when you're doing that. And, you've got the access to other stuff.
Aha, we've got to the bottom of this finally. Capitalism strikes again.
It's always capitalism.
It always is, isn't it?
And we talked previously about how the Snap Store and perhaps the Apple Store and the Android Store were not correctly policed already, given the billions and billions of dollars that those large platforms bring in. You tell them not to publish viruses and malware, and they do it anyway. You tell the platforms like Facebook and Snapchat or whatever, don't publish child harm videos. They do it anyway. They don't give a fuck about the content that's on there. And so I think that they lose their right to decide who accesses their platform.
I think actual proper crippling punishments financially for those companies has to be brought in. The likes of the Facebook in Myanmar, wasn't it Myanmar? Where there's a massive load of murders that took place. Like, how many times do we have to see little Android boy get dragged out in front of Congress on his bum cushion because he's not tall enough and be told, oh, I'm really sorry this time? It's like, how many times has he done that?
Yeah, weird how Grok's still in the app stores as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's going to be in trouble soon, so hopefully.
Hopefully.
I think the fundamental issue here, or rather the most important issue here, is that 1 point for me.
Is it? Did you say they were going to do this shit?
I said age verification spreads to more and more websites because of regulation laziness. Slam dunk.
Oh, for
fuck's sake.
I must have said that was an obvious thing and you're not allowed a point if it happens.
I bet you did.
I should have done. We've got a very interesting interview now with Carmen about her project Mission Libre. And Carmen is very much a free software person. So let's hear that now. Thanks a lot for joining me, Carmen.
Happy to be here.
So you emailed asking to be on the show to talk about your project Mission Libre. So what is that?
Mission Libre is my new project for 11 to 14-year-olds who are interested in free software. It's meant to help them become tomorrow's activists and contributors.
Right. And so what does that involve then?
Well, the first thing it does right now is produce a lot of educational materials for young people, including a really cute little zine I'm quite proud of. I'm going to run some clubs on Jitsi so people can participate wherever they are. I'm also going to help their parents and the kids themselves work for free software in their lives and at their schools. Oh yeah, I forgot. I also give individual help to young people who are interested in free software. So I've done things like connect them to the local free software communities, found educational materials, and connect them to others who like free software that are their age.
Right. And so you are based in New Zealand, but this is an international effort, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It's interesting that you keep using the word free software. You've not said open source once.
No.
Is that a dirty word to you?
Open source isn't a dirty word for me, but I do value the philosophy of free software, and free software is what I heard first. So I've always had a lot of affection for free software.
Fair enough. So how many kids have you got involved in this so far?
A couple handfuls. It's been very difficult to promote this, to be honest. I do get quite a bit of traffic to the website, but right now I'm working on promoting it and making sure that young people know about Mission Libre.
Right. Which is not easy. I mean, you need to be on like TikTok and stuff, don't you? Snapchat, maybe.
The big difficulty, of course, is that the kids are starting to get banned from TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. So I have to work around that anyway, even if I was, like, say, an environmental charity or somewhere else. So I'm not alone, at least.
Yeah.
But I'm working on engaging other youth organisations and publications and getting my work put in their publications and on their social media. It takes some time for that to bear fruit because I have to talk to them and build a relationship, but hopefully soon we'll start seeing some progress in that direction.
Right. And you've been presumably contacting other podcasts and YouTube channels and stuff then?
Yes.
I suppose, like, I would go after parents probably because they seem easier to reach, maybe.
I'm looking at doing more talking towards parents. There's parenting magazines, parenting podcasts, parenting shows that I'd love to talk about free software on. Unfortunately, sometimes there's a bit of reaction like, okay, this is computers. We're not technical people. Why should we care about this? Or we don't know if we know enough to talk about this.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, how do you sell this to non-technical people?
Well, people are becoming more and more aware that how we use technology has really, really obvious effects on how we live our lives. The social media bans didn't come from nowhere. They've started because people are aware that social media isn't good for them. Social media bans might not be the best thing, but it does show that there is some consciousness that how we use technology affects our lives and that it's important for us to have it right, even if we don't know how to program or if we don't care about technology.
Yeah, I think people are slowly but surely waking up to ideas that not all technology is good and some is really, really bad. But free and open source software is quite a difficult concept to get your head around. I mean, I've spent the last 10 years trying to explain it to people, 10 years plus, and people just glaze over. Like, they're just not interested. You know, I start by saying, like, everything you use, like, say, Snapchat or TikTok, that is made of code. And, you know, you can't read that code, but then there's alternatives where you can, and you've just lost them at that point. So that seems to me like that would be the hardest aspect of this. Like, I know, you know, getting organized and reaching people and fundraising, all the other problems, but like the fundamental challenge of what you are trying to do, getting through to young people about free software, would be just to even explain it to them. So like, is that something you've spent a long time thinking about? And, you know, your educational materials, have you, like, is that addressed in there?
Absolutely. I think of free software, like, even for a programmer, you can't do anything with most code you use. Maybe I would love to add something to LibreOffice, but that's a big program. And if I want to add something to it, it's going to take me a long time to figure out what I need to add, how to add it. So a lot of the time I just don't. But it's still better for me because I know that people who do know about the stuff have my back and can do it for me, even if I can't.
Well, yeah, and ultimately you can pay someone to do it.
Indeed. The biggest issue I've had is people hear this is about computers and they feel intimidated, like the conversation isn't meant for them. And I don't think there are easy answers to that, but you do have to be reassuring and kind and listen and make sure that you inform people that, yes, this matters because companies and developers are using your ignorance and your fear about speaking up against you. They use what you don't know against you.
So if people want to get involved then, what do you want from people?
The most helpful thing you can do is tell your friends and family and colleagues about this, and especially any kids you have who might be interested in joining us. The sooner that Mission Libres got over that first hurdle of getting the initial numbers of kids we need to run, for example, the clubs, the more it's going to grow and it'll kick off after that.
Right, and so what's the website then?
It's missionlibre.org.
Right, well, I'll definitely put a link to that in the show notes. It's been great talking to you, Carmen. Thanks a lot for joining me.
Thank you.
That's really cool. It's a very lofty goal. I am, wishing her all luck because that sounds like a Herculean task, but I do like the zine and I like the way they've kind of gone through a few programs that people might use, get kids involved in various things. And if any of those kids do get to use LMMS and make music, if you could tell me how to get audio to work, that'd be great. Cheers.
Yeah, it does seem like a very laudable goal. It seems like very difficult what Carmen's doing, but I wish her the best. Right, well, we better get out of here then. We'll be back next week when who knows what it'll be. But until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Phelim.
I've been Graham.
And I've been Will.
See you later.